on right now.
Okay.
And, ready?
Okay.
Okay, welcome back, folks. This is Dwight Lilly with Right Talk, production of Tilling and Windmill Media. And I have here today, March the 10th, 2015, a special guest, Donna Cox, who is the 2nd District Commissioner in Nye County, Nevada. And we're going to have a discussion about just some issues going on, her work as a commissioner, the efforts to keep the county afloat, and just her comments. I guess that's what I'm saying on that. Anyway, why don't you tell the viewers here, Donna, a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you came from, how you got to Nye County, how you got involved in politics. You know, just go ahead and.
Okay. Actually, I'm a commissioner in District 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
No, there's so many, it's hard to keep straight. Actually, I only came across the border from Arizona.
The border?
Yeah, I came across the border from Arizona. I was born in Kingman, so it's only 100 miles away from where I grew up. And I'm the only commissioner on the board right now that is a lifetime person of Nevada. And my dad grew up in Kingman. My grandpa was an old miner and first barber there and things like that. And so they grew up in the mines, and my dad was a master electrician, and he went to work at Davis Dam. And you may not know about that, but Davis Dam's down in Laughlin. So
I know about it. I just
my
lived
dad
in Arizona.
yeah, oh, okay. My dad actually graduated high school in Kingman, Arizona. And so that's how far back we go with that one. And then he eventually, the plant was finished and the dam was finished, and so he moved on to follow his jobs, and he ended up at Boulder Dam, and then he ended up at Nevada Test Site, and so he moved us up into Boulder City, and then we moved over into this little old town called Whitney, Nevada, and that was the oldest town in Clark County.
Really? Where's it located?
It's down in Tropicana Boulder Highway.
Okay.
And you wouldn't know it now because it's all surrounded with
right.
everything, but we only had 3 streets. We had dirt roads. We had telephone just coming in. In fact, when we moved there, we had these old wooden telephone poles, and the wires were still hanging. I can remember a little bitty kid and these wires hanging on the poles, wrapped up, waiting to be put on. It's funny how certain things impress you, and it never goes away. You know? So I lived through getting the streets paved and etc. I watched progress, I guess you might say, and it kind of led to where I am today, because as I was growing up, I was going through the process of a community actually being built, and watching the people volunteer and taking pride in building the parks and things for the kids and the school. We had an old army barracks for a school. We actually all grew up pretty dirt poor. Money wasn't really big when you worked for the federal government in those days. And so we got by, we had to do what we had to do. And in fact, I can remember the atomic bombs going off. And
seeing the flashes on them?
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning while it was still dark. My dad had come home from the test site, and that job was killing him, because he went to work at 4 o'clock in the morning and didn't get home till midnight. They had to drive all the way there and all the way back, and he would say, "Oh, there's going to be a thing tomorrow. We'll get up and watch." So we would get up as he was going to work and watch the flash, up and get a little radiation there. And so that's basically it. We ended up in Whitney, which eventually got called East Las Vegas, but is now back to Whitney. Just this little town. He went to work at Titanium Metals Corporation, which is where they make the metal for the space shuttles and the rockets and things like that. And he retired from there. He stayed there for the rest of his life and retired from there. So until I grew up there until I was 38 years old, and things over the years we had watched things change. Well, during that time, being involved in the community from the time I was a little bitty kid, I eventually ended up on the town board. And
over in Las Vegas area, Clark County?
Yeah, in Clark County.
Which town was it?
It was the town of Whitney.
Okay, they're at Town Whitney's town board.
I could kind of explain this to you a little bit, because most people don't know this, so it'll probably be new to you. The Las Vegas Strip is not in the city of Las Vegas.
I know.
So if you ever go to the Las Vegas Strip, you're not going to be in the city of Las Vegas unless you go downtown Fremont Street. We had, at that time, we had 4 towns. Eventually, we had 4 towns, which was half of the strip is in the town of Paradise, half the strip is in the town of Winchester.
Right.
And then we were out in East Las Vegas, which is along Boulder Highway. And then there's another town just adjacent to us that is called Sunrise Manor. So we were the 4 towns there. And we all had town advisory boards. We all fell under the county, just basically like the town of Pahrump does now.
Mm-hmm.
And so at a fairly young age, I don't know, I was in my 20s, I guess, I got on the town board, and that's where I stayed for 12 years. I was vice chairman for 12 years. And I was that because I didn't want to be chairman.
Hold on one second. I want to make sure the camera's working okay.
Okay.
I heard it bing or something.
I heard it being too.
Yeah, it's still going.
It's okay?
I'll have
Okay,
to probably
so,
cut this minute out.
It's okay.
I'm going to leave it in because I
cut
want the
this
people to
out.
know that this is not NBC you're witnessing here. But go ahead, continue.
So I stayed on the town board until things started growing and growing, and you know, in those days, Clark County was, we had a commissioner from Boulder City that I actually knew from the time I was a little bitty kid. He was a pharmacist, Robert Broadbent. Very strong commissioner though. He was a pharmacist in Boulder City, and I used to like to go down and window shop. I was a window shopper from the time I was a little bitty kid. And if they opened the door, I was out and going. And so I used to wander down to the pharmacy down there because they had a rocking chair set out front, and I used to like to rock. And you could always find me sitting in the rocking chair. If it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, they'd find me in the rocking chair. And anyway, so he was very young at the time, but as he got older, he became the county commissioner for the area of East Las Vegas. And they ran in districts just like we do here. And so I discovered that we could spend money, you know, and we actually had money to spend. And the philosophy of the older people, the older town board, was they said, well, I said, we need to buy this for the park and we need to buy that. And they said, oh, no, we've been saving our money. We want to save our money. We're going to get a big pot and we can buy something really big, you know. We could get a new community center or something. And I said, well, I don't think you can do that because it's my belief from what I've been listening to is that if we don't spend it, they take it away every year. And so I went down and I confirmed it. And sure enough, we had no money.
Because each year that you didn't spend it, they just put it back into the general fund.
Yeah. So back it went. But I discovered there were other pots of money I could get. So I had a lot of fun. I got a new community center. I got the park totally redone. I got a new fire station. I got, this is during my reign of 12 years, new senior center. And it's just on and on, little things, you know, improvements for the park, improvements at the school grounds. And we did a lot of it with volunteer work. We had a limited amount of money we could use for actual structural. And the rest of it, we got volunteers. And we built all these things. And I actually donated my time because my background is in architecture, my education, electrical engineering and architecture. So I drafted up all the plans for everything. And then they just stamped them and we built it. Or they, you know, a county put in a lot of labor and they built it. And we got restrooms for the park. And sometimes it wasn't easy. We had to compete with some of the other towns for some of these things. And then the problem was with progress comes problems. And our commissioner termed out or left office and another commissioner came in and then we started having some problems. And money started going elsewhere and we had spent a lot of money trying to get the new park and community center, and we actually paid for it out of our taxes on that one. And then the county decided to come in and take it away from us. So we all quit the town board. All 5 of us resigned immediately, and we incorporated. And we incorporated into a really nice little city. But the county didn't like our plans because we were smart. We took everything. At that time, it was very, very important, or very, very easy to incorporate because you only had to follow section line roads. You did not have to follow town boundaries. So you could take up anything in the entire county that was not incorporated
And make it part of your town.
Yes, and we were only surrounded by towns. Now, there were no cities around us with the exception of Henderson. So we went to the whole, and we drew up a map and we went clear to the Henderson boundary. And then we scooped up everything as far as we could. We didn't want to get too greedy, but we scooped up everything as far as we could go up to Mountain Vista, and we took in the Vocational Technical Center, which is where I went to school. And but the fun part was that we went over to, are you familiar with Samstown?
Yeah.
In Boulder Highway. Okay. We took that back. That area used to be ours, but at some point the county had decided they were going to take that away.
For
and
the
then
taxes,
they built
probably.
Samstown, yeah. And they cut Nevada Palace, used to be there. It was a hotel, and they cut that in half, and they gave half to Sunrise Manor. And unfortunately, it was the casino half. They only gave us the motel half, which we couldn't make any money. So we took that back. We took Samstown. And the fun part is we went down in, and we took mainly businesses. We took anything that didn't have population on it, as little population if we could, because they cost you money. The more
Exactly.
people have, the more money it costs. So we took in a lot of vacant land that they had future development plans on with big corporations and things. Well, we took all that. We took the Las Vegas Sanitation District. We took the Clark County Sanitation District. We took Horseman's Park. We took the Silver Bowl. We went clear to Lake Mead, and we scooped up all that stuff now that is built with casinos down on the lake, and that was way past our boundaries. Well, we just went right straight to the lake. So we had a very good financial foundation to do this new city with. And we did it in 2 weeks. My husband,
2 weeks?
in 2 weeks. They didn't know what hit them. We went to the county commissioners and we said, look, guys, we want you to leave our community center alone, give it back to the people, give the park back to the people, let the town board continue to run this, or we're going to incorporate. And they laughed. Ha, you'll never get that on. Well, they didn't realize we didn't have very many people, so it didn't take a lot of signatures, right?
Right.
And so within 2 weeks, between my husband and myself and a couple of other people, but basically Tony, who had been a town board member with me, we petitioned and they signed like crazy, and we became a city.
That's amazing.
And so
What year was that?
that was, I believe, 1986.
Okay.
Somewhere between 82 and 86. I'm going way back. And we were the newest town incorporated, or the newest city incorporated in the state of Nevada. And some of the problems with that is that you derive a lot of your money from some of the cities that are already incorporated, which didn't make those people very happy, because now they have to give us a portion of all the cities in the state of Nevada, right? We get to scoop that up. And at that time it was easy to do, and it was a good thing to do. So, and the city of Mesquite had just become incorporated, and we've been following them and watching them. And then the town of Laughlin wanted to incorporate. So we were really becoming a thorn in the county side, because they didn't want Laughlin to incorporate because they have control of the casinos, right? So that wasn't going to happen. And they took us to court. The county took us as our group, which at that time was East Las Vegas Concerned Citizens Committee. They took us to court. Each one of the commissioners had to actually hire their own attorney, because this wasn't a thing where they could depend on the county's attorneys. So here they come. They have 7 of the most high-priced attorneys in Las Vegas, and I thought Tony and I are screwed, because we're representing ourselves, right? And we're representing this committee, and we're not attorneys, but we followed the law. So we get up there in front of Judge Levitt, very nice man, Myron Levitt, and these were all a bunch of his friends sitting out here on the commission. And they think they've got it made. And we have our argument for an hour. And Judge Levitt said, I'm sorry, guys, but when you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. And these people are right. And I can't deny them. They're right. They followed the procedure, and they did what they needed to do. And you're declared a city. So, about $2 million later, they take us to the Supreme Court. Well, we lost it on a technicality in the Supreme Court, because they claimed that we didn't notify the town of Sunrise Manor, and we'd scooped up part of it, which was an absolute total lie. And all we had to do was appeal it, because we could prove it. It was all over the newspaper, the news media, and on and on and on. But unfortunately, things were getting bad in the area, and at that time we had decided, okay, we're taking our kids and moving to Pahrump, because we had bought land here in 1982 to retire on, not actually to live on. And this procedure, because they were going to the Supreme Court, was dragging out. It drags out and drags out for years.
Wore you down.
Yeah. And having all these nice improvements was good, except then the county decided at one point, and this was also one of the things that caused it, is they were going to bring in low-cost housing. And where did they put it? Right next door to our nice new park and community center and fire department that I had just spent 3 years getting developed. And now my kids couldn't even go to the park because low-cost housing brings in gangs and trouble. And,
Right.
First day they opened the park, or first day they opened the housing project, they have a shooting in the park. And we hadn't even got to have our grand opening in the park yet. So that disproved my point. And then they put a bunch of industrial behind me, and you may have heard me speak about this at one of our county commission meetings out here. Good example, 1,200 feet in my backyard. And we had acre lots. We have all of a sudden big warehouses going up, and we have no idea what they're putting in these warehouses, right? We're just absolute prisoners. We're locked in the front, we're locked in the back. And my kids have to go to school. Well, over the summer, 32 new gangs had moved into Clark County.
Geez.
32 new gangs out of California and a lot of these other places. And things were starting to happen. There were starting to be shootings and odds and ends and threats. And so I said, I cannot.
Time to get out of here.
I cannot send my kids to school and have to worry about this. So I went to Metro because we were, as a city, we were going to form our own police department, but we couldn't get. We had to wait till we got through the Supreme Court now. So we're kind of snowball or shanghaied in this respect. So I went to Metro and I said, look, there's all these problems going on out there and I'm really, really nervous and we need to have more policing in our area for gangs, and etc. And they said, oh, we can't do anything about that. We only have a budget to house 2 gang detectives and that's all we can give you. And they have to do the whole entire county. And I said, well, this is crazy. I'm not going to live like this. So I packed up the kids the first day of school, packed up the kids, drove to Pahrump on August the 29th. I'll never forget this. August the 29th, took them straight over to the high school, put them in school, drove around, looked for a house to rent, found one, lucked out. It wasn't, it's a nice little house. I mean, it wasn't huge. It was half the size of what I was leaving. And went back to East Vegas. And when Dawn got home from work, I said, hey, guess what? I found a house. I put the kids in school and we're out of here.
Yeah.
And he never argues with me, right? He knows better than that at this point.
So Don says, well, I guess I'm moving to Pahrump.
Yep. He said, so what am I going to do? And I said, you're going to go down and rent a U-Haul truck and we're going. And, people didn't even know we'd left. I mean, we were gone for days and they had no idea until I came back, started yard selling some of the stuff I couldn't take because we were downsizing. And that's how we got to Pahrump.
That's an amazing
For the
story,
sake
Don,
of the kids.
because I don't think people realize in Pahrump how much experience that you really have brought to the town, because and I don't think the people in the county or the town realize that the talents that are available amongst the citizens here. And so when people like Donna, who's been labeled an activist, and when you are labeled an activist, because you're looking at another one sitting right here, then they start finding reasons to talk about you behind your back and to try to, when I say they, I mean I always call these the powers that be, the people that are established, that want no change, and that have controlled everything for years. Anytime somebody comes in and speaks out, if they can't shut you up immediately at the meeting, then you become a thorn in their side, so they have to try to find some way to belittle you and talk down, and like you don't know what you're doing. Like if you happen to push forward a proposal or come up with a petition, that you simply don't have the tools to do it. Whereas you can see from Donna's experience, my God, she was on a committee that formed a city right out from underneath the commissioner's eyes and noses over there in Clark County. And I can kind of relate to what Donna says about Las Vegas, because I saw this from living in Tucson and my wife up in Phoenix, and that these towns were small. When you think of the city of Phoenix now with I think 4 or 5 million people, that it didn't used to be that way. It used to just be down around Central Avenue and the hub, and where, in fact, the freeway wasn't even going north out of there. And the same way here in Las Vegas, when you would drive in from Los Angeles to where Highway 160 comes to Pahrump, that was way out in the country from what Las Vegas was. And that Henderson was way over there, and North Las Vegas was way up there.
Absolutely.
And these were all different towns. Now, like every metro area, they're just kind of together, and you don't know. Most people, when they say, well, we're going to come and visit you in Las Vegas, I chuckle because I says, well, Las Vegas is down on Fremont, You're talking about coming out where the Excalibur is or something. That isn't Las Vegas. That's out in the county out there. And they're kind of surprised that Las Vegas isn't this big city. And over in Pahrump, so a lot of us settled here, as Donna just explained how she got here. and then started looking around and saying, well, geez, what can we do to make this place better? And I know that Donna became active, and she, stepped right back in and saw a need, and started organizing people here. And I first met you and Don and a few of the other people in the area by going to town board meetings and basically being told by the town board to shut my mouth. They didn't come out and say, shut your mouth, but their policies that they were putting in place made it pretty clear that if I wanted to speak out on any issues or offer suggestions, it'd be at 11 o'clock tonight. After sitting there for 6 hours before I was going to be able to speak. And that just, those type of policies that want to shut people off, shut the debate off, is what drives people in Donna and myself on.
Yes.
So we just went through, Donna. I'm going to jump ahead here. Now that people know who Donna Cox is, and I thought Don might be here today, but he's out doing something different.
Yeah, he's busy. I keep him busy.
Yeah.
He's a go-for.
But we just went last
really
week through county finances. You guys have been going through it as commissioners. Donna, being the commissioner, she's had to deal with the fact that each year the county finances are dropping because, the amount of money is dropping because it just is. We have less revenue coming in because of the tax structure we have here. And you guys had to face some big decisions, didn't you? Like cuts here and cuts there. Why don't you tell the audience how you what you thought about that? That you guys obviously had discussions with the the county manager, and she explained to you sort of where everything was, and you come up with a plan. When you got up, God, I'm stumbling along here today. Sorry, folks. When this came up for a vote, when Dan Shinholden, the commissioner from District 5, made the motion to vote, you voted against it. And I know why I would have voted against it, but why don't you explain why you voted against that? You're the one lone wolf, because it didn't really get, they don't really give you a chance to really talk that much after these votes. You could explain your position. Was there ideas that you thought needed to be in there? Was there things that you thought should have been kept and other things looked at? What actually was what drove you to say no when the other four people said yes?
Well, to start with, I wasn't happy with the items they picked.
Okay.
And I didn't feel we had enough conversation on it. I was under the impression that this was going to come out and we were all going to discuss it in an open forum. And we would go over each one by one. That was kind of my thing, but that's not.
Did you have a list there of all the items?
Yes, let me go back just really quick.
Okay, you explain it. Your turn.
I'm going to jump back for just a second to the incorporation of, and you'll see how it folds in here. To start with, when we did the incorporation in Clark County, the legislature rewrote the laws because it was too easy to incorporate. Their idea is there'll never be another city incorporated in the state of Nevada, okay? And the way they do things, I don't think there will ever be. To start with, you cannot expand past your boundary lines right now. You have to accept whatever you have within the town. You can't go out unless you can go out and get people to ask to be annexed in after the incorporation. So you're stuck with the budget you have there. And you're stuck with the people you have there. You can't eliminate some people and take in some people. But this goes to how it affects the town budget. The reason I say this is because the town has a budget, and the county can't take that budget. And they have money that they need to use to operate their town. Even though now it's controlled by the county commissioners, we're limited to what we can do by the NRS, by law. And so anybody tells you that, the county took over the town because they're going to rape their funds is not true. It cannot be done.
Well, that was a question that was brought up.
So, because it's not up to us, like I said, it's up to the state legislature to do whatever they do. And right now, we're tied into the fact that the town's money can only be spent within the town. We can approve or disapprove of what it's spent on, but we can't take it and say, okay, we're going to spend this in Gabbs, or we're going to spend this in Tonopah. So I'm not really sure that saying we're going to cover animal control is legal. See, I have some legal questions about these things.
Yeah, let me back up there real quick. One of the issues that came up and is that you're letting your phone goes up.
Down, I'm sorry.
Is that during this hearing that was last week, the county appeared to be like that the citizens of Pahrump, the town of Pahrump, were going to now be paying for the animal control shelter funds that had been always historically a county program. The town of Pahrump's never funded the animal shelter. Other than people living here, we volunteer and take food down there and help out. But it hasn't ever been something that was in our budget. And now $225,000 was going to be shifted from county responsibility to the town responsibility. And whether this was even morally right or decent or anything like that, not that we might not take it on if it was explained to the citizens of Pahrump that, hey, you know, do you want to fund this, you know, run the shelter down here? But it just never was really openly talked about to people in Pahrump. I don't think it was anyway.
Well, I asked to be a liaison on that board a long time ago along with Frank Carboni, and I did that because, you know, these animals cannot take care of themselves.
No,
somebody has to help them, and there's nothing worse than a, you know, starving animal scrounging around on the street with its nose down trying to find something to eat.
Exactly.
And they cannot open the gates and go to the restaurant. They have to, they're totally dependent upon us.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sit in that cage and wait till we give them food and water, or they die. And that to me is morally wrong. I would never give up pursuing taking care of the animals. But there's ways to do it that are legal and illegal. And quite some time ago, it was on the town board agenda, and they asked the town board if they wanted to fund these animals, and the town board said no, let the county do it. Well, the reason for that was because the majority of animals that go to the shelter, and the majority of problems they have with animals, such as bites and licensing and spading and neutering, all comes from the town of Pahrump. Pahrump's very large; it has a lot of animals.
Right,
you know? So, in a way, they were shirking their responsibility because they only wanted the things that pay. You know, they have the fire department, the cemetery, and the park. You know how many times they told you that, and the swimming pool.
Right.
And they have a lot of money left over because they don't pay their fair share in a lot of cases. But they're, you know, I don't feel that the town of Pahrump, though, should be paying for the animals in Armagosa and the animals over in Tonopah, because those are all towns and they all have their own budgets, and they should have to foot their portion of it, even though Pahrump would probably foot the majority of it. And Nye County overall foots the bill for animal control.
Right. They pay for the officers that go out in the trucks that you see, the animal control trucks driving around, capturing stray dogs and that. And
I think that budget's awfully high. I mean, we're running over $300,000 for a couple of officers, one in Tonopah, and one that I know of down here, maybe possibly two. And I think that department could take some cuts. See, my thing is, I think a whole lot of people that work for the county need to take some cuts.
Yeah.
And you've got, you know, the county commissioners that are willing to take cuts, and that's not a really big deal. I think we're going to be cut like $1,200 a year, which is $100 a month out of our pocket, based on what we make, because we don't make much. I think probably $26,000 and something a year, if I remember right.
For the county commissioner's salaries.
Yeah.
Right.
But you've got some of these people that are making $200,000 a year and higher.
Exactly.
So yeah, it cuts into them. You know, you're going to get $18,000 or $20,000 out of some of them or more. And animal control, I think that we could cut, and we will be, because those people are going to lose some of their wages. Cut the animal control down and derive some of that money back. But I'm really not sure that's even fair that the towns are not paying a little bit for at least the animal control officer too, because they don't say, no, we're not going to show up because you don't pay.
Right.
They're saying, okay, we'll be there. But which is worse, you know, cutting some of these things and putting them back on either way, that comes back on the taxpayers' back.
Exactly.
So now we're cutting services. Okay, so now we need volunteers. So that comes onto their backs. But the only other thing is, okay, you raise taxes, that comes onto the backs. So it's a tough job trying to figure out how to do this. And we have a pretty good staff, and I've got to give Pam kudos because I know she works overtime most of the time to figure this stuff out. And she's very astute and well educated, and she remembers everything. You know, I can ask her a question about something that happened 5 years ago, and she'll remember it for as long as she's been there. And some of the things that she knows that were from before she even got there. So I have to, I have to look at staff and give them a lot of credit for what they've done. But I just not feel comfortable with this because we're taking away from the seniors, we're taking away from the animals, and we were taking away from, there was another big one.
Without debate, without any really discussion on it.
Yeah. And
it was just a motion made. Cut $25,000. I'm just throwing these numbers out.
Yeah.
We're going to take a $25,000 cut here, $100,000 cut here, 10% cut from these people and that. And we just sat in the audience, and the commissioner sat up there while the motion was read, and there was no individual item discussion, I would say, at all. And that's what upset you about it.
And Dan was throwing things around so quick because apparently he had this motion in his head before he ever got there.
That's how it looked
I mean,
like.
it's very apparent that something went on somewhere. And I wanted, my thing was to do item by item by item, and I told them I was not comfortable with the way this was being done, and I wasn't going to support it. And I tried to open up discussion, and they, Lorinda basically, boom, that's it. We don't want to discuss it. So I voted no, because I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not sure how legally, I had questions about some of the legalese of the thing. And I'm not going to vote yes on something I'm not comfortable with. And if people don't like that, then they don't like it. But that doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means that I've got to do more research. That this is just not
and I'm glad you mentioned that, Donna, because some of the conversation, and because Donna marches to a different drummer than these people. She's been doing politics for longer than these people have even lived in the area here, and understands how things work. She maybe not come out and say right out why she voted no, but it's important for people to know that she's just not sitting there not doing anything about it. She has read up on the issues and that. Yet you get into one of those discussions, the way the commissioner meetings go, she doesn't have control over it. The chairman can say one thing, say I need I would like to have a motion on this. Another commissioner makes one of the commissioners make a motion. Somebody seconds it. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, it's voted on. It's you just sit there, and what I've seen is especially since Lorinda Wickman's taken over, is that there doesn't seem to be a big interest in even having a lot of comment from the public.
No, it's just get the
I'm going to hold this
over.
to 3 minutes. Which is cool. We have a 3-minute comment period, but the reason that people come down to commissioner meetings is because we want to be involved. Even though we voted for the commissioners, we feel like we need to have a say. And I think that what Donna's saying is that even the commissioners, under the way that our Nye County commissioners run, they don't really have a say when it gets really to talking about the issue. Especially one as sensitive as this, because during this meeting, folks, you could look at this on the county website. You can go back and look at this meeting, the video of it. I came up, and they tried to put me down like they normally do, that I was talking about agenda items. But I said, I don't want these finance issues and important issues buried in the back of the agenda anymore. I think they should be talked about first, because that's when the most people are in the meeting, and people don't want to wait for 6 or 7 hours to get to the finance part of the meeting, when this is a key area going on right now that we're talking about. And so they did, when they came back from a break, they had this as be one of the first agenda items. Yet, as Donna's saying, we didn't really get into a very deep discussion about it, and I really didn't pay any attention to the animal control shelter down here being funded until it was sort of dropped in my lap yesterday, and I go, whoa, I didn't even know the town was going to be funding this, because it was such little discussion with this, and so I think it needs to be discussed. And I've asked, I asked yesterday in a meeting, and Pam Webster said she would, that the animal shelter needs to be discussed further and could be an agenda item on the next county commission meeting. So we'll see if that happens, whether or not my item gets brought up, so we even though you guys have already voted on the budget cuts, that I think that still needs to be explored more, and the people from Pahrump should have a say in some regard. And I really think, you folks in Pahrump, Washington, I think we will support a shelter, maybe more full than we have been. But we need to talk about it, you know, like what are we supporting?
And we need to know where the money's going to come from.
Yeah, I want to know where $225,000 is going out of my tax.
Yeah, well, if the county's not going to do this anymore, there's a lot of questions as where is the money going to come from and how is it going to be evenly distributed out of all the town's budgets, not just out of Pahrump's budget.
Right.
Because that goes back to originally the fact that I never, and I was one of the big pursuers of getting rid of the town board, but I never did it because I wanted to steal money from the town, regardless of what a bunch of sore losers are saying over that.
Right.
You know, that never entered my mind, and I never suspected that that was in the county's mind either, because at least I know, and I'm sure all the rest of them know, that there was no way we could steal that money. But we can spend that money. And there are things we need to spend it on. And you can look at it this way, because we did away with the county manager's position, which probably was costing us $150,000 a year. And we did away with...
You mean the town manager?
I'm sorry, did I say county?
Yeah, the town manager.
No. Town manager. Okay, so we're looking at... She was making somewhere around $100,000 plus all of her perks.
Right.
And retirement and whatever. So we did away with that. And we did away with the so-called 300 attorneys that we had access to.
I know.
You know, for the $400,000 a year.
I know.
Okay, so we did away with that. So we have put money back into the coffer of the town. It's not like that money,
right.
You know, like we're taking that out of something.
Right.
It was already being spent. It was just being spent on something different.
And more efficiently, by the way.
Yes, it was being spent differently is all. And so now, even though they're quoting $225,000 to help Susan out with, you know, from tail's end to help with her contract, that's still hundreds of thousands of dollars less than what the people were paying just for the attorney and the town manager.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to know that, and that's why Donna's explaining this here today, so that those that watch us can say, hey, you know, the county move to take over the town has had a lot of benefits. My whole, I guess, dispute with it would be, let's talk about these things more openly, and let's hope, if any commissioners are watching, just let's say, have a sneaking suspicion some of them do, outside of Donna here, that they will understand that, you know, I wasn't just complaining when I want this agenda item on the next commissioners meeting, that it's a serious concern. We want to be communicated with and be part of the discussion that goes on. So anyway, let's go on.
What happened in that, and let me touch on this really quickly, is what happened in that is we used to, when Dan was chairman, and even since then with Lorinda up there, when they wanted to put something through really fast, they would call for the question. That way it shut the audience down, nobody could say anything. It's just, you know, this is my motion, I call for the question. That's kind of how Lorinda ended up in the chairman position that she's in now, that on the January 5th meeting. So there was discussion over that, and that's not going to happen anymore. Calling for the question is not going to happen unless it's through a vote of the whole entire board to allow it to be called for the question. And I'm one of the big complainers on that, because... But
this is one of Dan's little shenanigans.
Yeah. And so... It
was a shenanigan, Dan, so that's why I said that.
And he knows it. He knows very well what he did, especially when it was putting Lorinda in for chairman. Unfortunately, he couldn't put himself in for vice chairman because he wanted to do that, and instead I was able to talk fast enough to get to nominate Frank Carbone, so we at least have him for vice chairman. Because I felt that was only fair. I actually would have liked to see Frank being chairman, not because I have anything against Lorinda. Most of the meetings she runs very well. You know, she's
smart, and she's got the experience.
But you know, they've all had their turn. Butch has been there, Lorinda's been there, this is her second time around now, and Shinhofen's been there.
And I think Butch was too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Butch was there, he was there right before Dan.
Right.
So I just felt it was fair that either Frank or I be chairman, and I don't really want to be chairman. I don't like the limelight. I'm not here because I need somebody to pat me on the back. I just want to do what's right for the people. I would accept vice chairman, I don't have a problem with that. But in the meantime, it was done so quickly that I almost feel like maybe it was a violation somewhere.
It could have been. I mean, this may be something that needs to be explored. But regardless, it needs to stop. You know,
yes,
I mean, we
absolutely.
don't.
So,
you know, on the really hot issues that come before the commissioners, even though it might be uncomfortable, it would be politically unsound for them to make some of the decisions they do. It doesn't help the debate to just brush things real quickly out of the table.
Things are changing.
People like me are going to speak out about
things
this.
are changing with Angela too, because Angela's catching a lot of these things. That's how the resolution got brought back, was because of the way
Angela
they handled
Bello
it.
is our district
attorney.
new district attorney.
Yes.
She's been in office about 2 months.
And we also have Marla Zolchak, which is sitting in with her, so that they can confer and they can stay on top of things. Because now we have more women in office, believe it or not, guys.
Yes.
Equal
rights.
Yes, and we may get this done yet. And
we may get something done now that the women are running.
So, but part of the problem was they threw up the vote. That day you were there, and I had Sharon Worley, who's sheriff, wanting to come down and talk about her end of the budget thing here. They mentioned her.
They didn't say let her do anything.
No, it was just cut and dry. And then she had the undersheriff was there, and then the assistant sheriff was there, and the assistant sheriff is after a lot of grants and things, so he's pretty up on it. And so I wanted them to have the fair opportunity to speak, and she just cut him off, called for the vote, and I didn't vote. I immediately said, look, we've got people down here that want to speak, and one of them was you. So we got to speak.
Hey, you can't get up fast enough.
I know.
Here I get my whole body out of the chair and it's already over. We're like, oh well.
And then we have a 3-second time delay.
Yeah.
So if you're 3 seconds,
I have to sit all the way up in the front of the audience so I can get up there.
Absolutely. So if you're not sitting in the chair at the time, then you're kind of
bang.
So
sorry,
I'm
yelling
at them. I've got people down
I'm
here.
glad you mentioned it. Here I'm interrupting. I'm glad you mentioned Sheriff Sharon Worley, because I really think she's really trying. I know that this is a big, to be the sheriff. She'd never been a sheriff. She hadn't even been in a sense, a member of the good old boy sheriff network there, other than being a reserve officer. And I had a lot of concerns about that. But Donna, there seems to be an energy or something amongst the commissioners that they don't like Sharon Worley. Sheriff Worley. And I don't know why that is. Maybe they supported Rick Marshall like I had for sheriff. I was very vocal about that.
They didn't seem to like
I'm a little
DeMayo
concerned.
either.
Because I'm concerned about this because
I don't know
if we don't have public safety, living out here and this, we have a rough crowd that we live amongst here, and we need to support the sheriff's office. And I've said that publicly. I've said it on my blog on Tilting Windmill. And I'm saying here right now, and the sheriff her budget's been strangled, because granted there's fewer funds, and I'm sure she's going to do a good job and get through this. But I definitely don't want Sharon Worley, and I hope you don't, Donna, just being beat up every time she comes to a commissioners meeting. She's got a right. She's our sheriff. She's got a right to get up and explain why she wants funding. And if it's something that we really need, I don't want that. I don't want it to just be, well, you can't have that because we can't. Maybe they need to take another look at the whole budget. If we can't have a cop, and I'm going to tell a story here that I found out during the campaigns. There was a Saturday night that we had 2 officers in Las Vegas getting certified. I guess they go over there and get certified for firearms or something. It's something you have to every year. We had 2 over there. We had a suicide out on Highway 160. Somebody from Las Vegas had, I guess, killed themselves right at the county line. And Sergeant Dugan, who was on duty that night, nice guy, I like him. He was talking to the Las Vegas dispatch, and the Las Vegas we had 2 officers out on the scene out there. But this, I guess we discovered these 2 the suicide thing, and so because it was really Clark County where it was at. Dugan was talking to Las Vegas dispatch, and so they flippantly said, "Well, you just guys go ahead and do the on-scene investigation, all that." Well, at that time, and you know how big our valley is here. We had 1 officer on duty in the valley of Pahrump because it was Saturday night. 2 of them were tied up out there, and 2 of them were over in Las Vegas, and the suicide happened. And so
So we
Sergeant
have over
Dugan,
100 employees in the sheriff's department.
but
who
we
are
only
they?
had
Yeah,
one
that
guy.
doesn't make sense.
Now he was, I don't know, here I am
Oh
way out
my
here in the
God.
south end. You live up toward
Yeah.
Paso High School. I guess if one of us called 911, then we'd be told, well, barricade the door because there's nobody to help
Get
you.
out your gun.
So this happened. So we really have a shortage of officers in the street, and I hope that going forward, that our new sheriff is able to deal with that with the budget constraint. I mean, there's a lot of issues, but I really hope that you guys, the commissioners, don't just beat up on her and just ignore her and think that she doesn't know what she's doing when she's learning as she goes, and she doesn't just come up there, I don't think, just out of a whim that I need to do this, I need to do that.
Well, she brought forth some really good ideas that day.
She did.
Remember, she brought where she could actually bring several $1 million into.
Yeah, she
the
did.
county
She's thinking outside the box.
Without, she didn't ask for a dime. She, but her budget's pretty much bare bones now.
It is. It is.
And I think they average like $1 million a month. But when you consider that's $250,000, that's $50,000 less than $50,000 a day, and you've got over 100 employees.
And they got a jail.
Yeah, and they have 2 jails actually.
Excuse me. Yeah.
We did shut the one down in Beatty, and I'm still not sure why that happened. But we have the one in Tonopah, and then we have the one here.
Maybe we need a chili cook-off for the sheriff.
And they did cut $800,000 from the jail budget for Tonopah, which is taking that down to bare bones. And and there's certain commissioners think they know it all about these things. And Sharon tried to explain to them that regardless of whether you have 1 prisoner in there or 100 prisoners, it still costs the same to run that jail because they still have to have staff. Yeah, and they still have to have staff. Nothing changes except the amount of people you're putting in there and maybe the little bit of food you're giving them. So you could save a little bit on food. But it's 160 miles to transport those people down here and then transport them back. So you're not saving anything.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of Dan Shinholven wanting to get some motion. It just seemed, the whole thing was weird how it came down during the motion. He looked really nervous up there and jerky, and it was just.
He was absolutely. I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
Sorry, Dan, but
I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
Like
I know his heart's not that good, but he was shaking.
Whether or not we cut the right items, whether or not we need to look at, take a look at some of these items and maybe find other ways of doing things. I think it needs to be an ongoing conversation and not just this.
Yeah.
And we really need to,
Now, when you talked to Pam, I understand you met with Pam yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. And you spoke with Pam and you asked about bringing it back on the agenda. Did she say she's only going to bring the animal control issue back? Because I feel we need to speak about more things than just that. And I'm going to have.
That's a good point, because I was just.
How did she word that?
I'm going to tell you how it came down. I was there with a friend of mine who asked me to come in because she was meeting about the animal control, and and so would you come and come with me at the meeting? And I says, yeah, I'll come down there. So it just got dropped in my lap. I didn't even know. I'm telling you, I felt blindsided.
I know.
Donna, I didn't know that all of a sudden the animal control was going to be under Pahrump's, and then Frank Carboni said, well, you were at the meeting. Well, that's true, but I mean, it was maybe my mind wasn't picking up on it because I wasn't expecting that to be.
But you didn't have time to think about it.
Well, no, and I didn't have time to think about it. So when Frank says that, Frank, we were sitting in the audience, true, but the most important agenda item that has come up since the first of the year that I know of, and even go back in the last year, because I've been harping about this budget thing for a long time now, trying to find out where the money's going, has been this, and the whole thing was done and put to bed in a matter of 10 minutes. Maybe I don't know. You can go look at the video. We can go back and look at it. But it was just.
I don't think it's 10 minutes.
I thought that this was going to be the reason, and one of the reasons I wanted it brought up earlier in the meeting was that we might spend 3 or 4 hours on this one agenda item, and Lorinda's whole position, I guess, is get the agenda through and get on with the rest of her day. But you can't just blow through these items like that. So when you ask me, is this the only item? Well, I was raising my voice a little bit, concerned. I said, this is not finished as far as I'm concerned. And I'll take this to the people. I want an agenda item, and then how do I get an agenda item? And then I think it was Frank said that I had to talk to somebody up in Tonopah about it. And I says, well, then who's the person? Let me get my note, pen out here and write it down. And then Pam looked at me and says, I'll put it on the agenda,
Okay.
Dwight. So I think she was only referring to the, to the animal control. But I agree with you. I mean, you got a whole sheet there of things.
Yeah. And
why aren't we discussing this? And even though you guys are the commissioners, still, let's have a conversation about this so the whole public, so you don't have people talking
the
about it.
complaints I received were from the department heads who said, I didn't know anything about this. Oh my God. Yeah, why didn't they talk to me? We should have went, or at least a little committee of people, maybe Pam and a commissioner, and
had a conversation about that.
Somebody from the DA's office should have went to each individual department, had a little conversation about it, and said, this is what we feel we need to do. How can we work this out? And I understand she has the final say, and maybe she did do this with some of them, but I know that some of them got blindsided. They were standing outside talking about it when I came out for lunch. That's how I know. And they said, oh my God, we had no idea, Well, look, you've got the DA that's barely making it now, had a budget of almost $2 million. But they've cut $266,000 out of her budget, and she doesn't have enough investigators. She's, there's, when the sheriff's department arrests people and everything sends over to her, she's got to be able to have help to get her through this.
Sharon was one of the investigators.
Yeah.
Our new sheriff was a district attorney investigator, so she came over, and now the sheriff, so that left a slot there.
Absolutely, and we're apparently not rehiring anybody to fill her slot.
Well, we don't have the money. I mean, we got to talk long term here about what are we going to do about taxes in the state. That's another conversation that has to be taking place.
But you're talking about public safety here.
This is right now. Public safety, to me, you get rid of everything else, and you make sure your house doesn't get burnt down, and nobody shoots you in your driveway stealing your car. There is no other important issue.
But you have this, these were the questions I needed answered. Okay, you have the library making $173,000 a year that's not going to take a cut. And the library is being run by volunteers,
right.
Okay? And it's the Pahrump Library, and it's in the town of Pahrump. Perhaps we could shuffle some funds, or remove $100,000 of it.
Or have the conversation about it.
Yeah, or move $100,000 of it, or find out where the $173,000 is going.
Yeah.
Move $100,000 of that and put it over into the DA's budget for public safety, so we can hire one more investigator. Because believe me, we have some big problems with drugs in this town. And there's nothing that the druggies would like better than to have us take big cuts in public safety, right?
Every edition of the newspaper is a crime about drugs, was caused by drugs, was precipitated by drugs. It's drives.
And unfortunately, this is what happens
crime.
when you have a prison town. It brings that element to town, regardless, because even if they call it just a holding facility, it still generates those kind of people. So, but those are departments where there could be, because we have now picked up another druggie and etc., and we've either gotten them off the street, or we're able to make them go to drug court and pay fines and pay some restitution. So that's coming back and paying for itself. It's not where the library is not paying for itself. Sorry, Phil, but it's not. They don't even.
It could be.
But the way they run it, no, they don't charge a fee to get in or anything, and they just keep adding on. And the land's been donated, and there's some grants and things like that. But we still have to pay the power bill. Somebody has to make it for the loss of taxes, and it's.
Well, I think you hit on a good point there, and I mentioned this before we even started taping. We have a senior citizen center here. We have the library. We have parks. But people have an attitude, I think, that because it's free, I don't have to pay. Because it's never been expected of me, I don't have to give nothing. And it was brought to my attention that the senior citizen center, now I want you to listen to this, folks. You can get a meal there for $3. You can have a complete meal at the senior center for $3. And my God, this helps a lot of really destitute people that probably is the only really good meal they're going to have all day. Because we have some really poor seniors here, and I do everything I can to help these people out.
And we've been donating bread.
But what about the seniors that could pay $3 or even throw $6 into the pot they won't do it. Some of them will, but there's an attitude that I pay. Here's the attitude. I pay my property taxes. I don't have to pay for any of this. And we have the lowest property taxes, by the way, of any town I've ever lived in. So it isn't, but property taxes isn't a huge burden here. Or they go to the library, they hang out in the library, but because they pay their property taxes, or they've retired now and they gave theirs when they were in Minnesota or wherever they'd retired from, that they should be able to sit here in our library for free. It's always been free. Here's another attitude I want to throw out there.
But why, excuse me a minute, but why did they come here in the first place? They came here in the first place to get lower taxes so that they wouldn't have to pay to live in a higher priced area. So what is wrong with donating a little bit back to the new area where they're not paying the high taxes and helping people out?
I mean, I'm not going to brag, but I throw money out here. I'm buying raffle tickets. I'm always doing something. I won too the other night, but I don't do that in fact, I've never done that. I've never had it come back like I did the other night at the Lincoln Day dinner. But I think you have to give. I give my time. Donna, neither one of us are rich, and we just we just do this. And if the people watch this, I expect you to step up to the plate. When I ask you in my blog or on this program to come and help, I expect you to, because if you're going to be free and live in a land of liberty and enjoy the fruits of our democracy, then my God, you gotta give. In fact, give more than you think you possibly can, because that is what makes this country strong, is by people digging in and helping their neighbors and everything. And don't come down expecting a damn free dinner for $3 if you've got $20 in your pocket. Because this affects our budget here that we're talking about.
And don't leave your kids out of it, because they could become future county commissioners, future district attorneys. Teach them while they're young. And a lot of people say, oh, my kids won't do this and my kids won't do that. Well, I'll tell you what, I raised my kids in politics in Clark County. And as they got older, my one son was 12 years old, and he was up speaking at a public meeting on a zoning issue that he knew was affecting the area he lived in. And even at 12 years old, he could understand that something wasn't right here. And so, and people used to say, how do you get your kids to do these things? I said, I just tell them they're going to do it. They took out flyers. Oh my God, they took out flyers of events. They took out flyers to the people for meetings. They were involved. They did all these little things to help me out, not because they had a choice, but because that was one of their chores. And they never bucked me about it. They had a good time. They saw their friends when they went door to door. They met their parents. And that's, I think, what life is all about, is giving the best way you can without coming out of your pocket. Never cost me anything to send my kids out to do these things, and they grew up to be good kids. They understand a lot of things that other people don't understand about
participation. It's participation. I don't mind helping you out, but when you can help, you need to help. You need to step up and help the rest of us help, so that we can take this community from the, I'm just going to say it, the drug-infested, poverty-stricken, the situation that we're living in here, and it needs to be brought up. But it isn't going to be brought up by people just always being the takers. You got to give something back to our community here if you want this to be a prosperous area. And don't think of it as being that you've got yours. We have kids here. I work because I worry about the grandkids and the great-grandkids, and 100 generations from now, what they're going to have, what legacy we're going to leave them. And this budget situation needs to get straight. We need to get this straightened out, be on an even keel, and we need to do something about taxes here. And everyone that's watched this says, there we go, taxes. You want to bring big city taxes in here? No. What I think we need to do is to have a conversation that we change the whole model of what Pahrump is, what Nye County is, and change the way we view things, and get businesses in here, and get it where we're not robbing from the DA office to pay the library, to pay the dog catcher. Those should just be givens that we have in a modern U.S. city.
And if you don't have those things, then you do have poverty and people on welfare, because you're not generating jobs and money. We just keep generating more poverty instead of generating more jobs, and making it feel outside companies think, I don't want to come to Pahrump because nobody there wants to give or anything.